Okay, hello. You are on Intermodal Cast, Intermodal's official podcast. In this episode, we will talk with Niklas Sundberg, Chief Digital Officer, the Kuehne+Nagel company. Niklas, nice to meet you. It's a pleasure to have you here in the podcast.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here and discuss these interesting topics around AI, logistics, and digital transformation.
Yeah, this topic, it's the topic of the moment, right? It's on the spot worldwide. The AI, I think it's the main topic in the internet and so on. And I would like to understand how AI is changing the logistic industries.
I think we look at it in many different aspects in terms of how we can improve our operations, how we can drive top line growth, improve our bottom line, and so forth. I think the important thing is also to not lock yourself into a specific technology, because obviously Gen AI is on everybody's the hottest thing in town at the moment, so to say. But I think we want to focus on what is the problem that we're trying to solve, so to say, and then also we need to put people first perspective into what are we trying to do, what are we trying to solve, how do we make this in a safe environment? Because I think until we have enough trust in the technology, we always have to have a human in the loop. And then the third element of the piece is also in terms of how do we develop AI in a principle driven way, so to say. How do we make it safe? How do we protect the data? How do we make it with the sufficient guardrails and so forth? And also make sure that we don't build AI system with high risks, so to say. So from a Kuehne+Nagel perspective, we try to summarize it in 3 Ps. So people, principle, and problem first, so to say.
That's very important because today AI is a topic that we are just starting
Yes.
worldwide, and the company is preparing themselves to implement AI because of the safety environment. It
Yeah.
means today you have your data in a cloud that you cannot protect your data, and some companies is bringing the AI to the company, avoiding to go to another part or the cloud.
Yeah.
So, and what's the transformation you are already implementing when we talk about transportation, warehousing, and all the areas that Kuehne+Nagel is involved?
Yeah, so if we talk about the warehousing part, obviously that is more of a combination of robotics and also on AI and how we can improve workforce planning, how we can improve stock count and so forth. But then also how we can, leverage robots to make sure that we reduce the picking time and improve from inbound to outbound in terms of what the cycle count is for that. When it comes to the freight forwarding business, we think about it in more of a number of touch points in terms of how do we move a cargo from A to B, so to say. And then if you take our sea freight business, we look into 22 different touch points, and then we try to dissect that and see where can we bring more benefits, so to say. Some elements are still very, very manual, but the North Star will be set for some modes of transportation is that we should in a happy flow, so to say, we should be able to have end-to-end fully automated process. So that's sort of the North Star that we set for our freight forwarding business.
That's amazing. Kuehne+Nagel is an AI trailblazer, right? So in 2023 reports, results reports, you have the ATA prediction, Sea Explorer. So customer service and data optimization. What puts KN, Kuehne+Nagel at the forefront, and which the new fronts will be prioritized?
Well, I think it's to build on the early success we've had with the use cases. I think we started out very early with robotic process automation. Robotic process automation is sort of the precursor to AI or
Yeah.
machine learning and so forth. But it's also very, very static in terms of how we can read off a web UI or a similar screen. But if something changes, it doesn't have the ability to interpret it. This is tax code. This is an NFRE code or so forth. So, but now with Gen AI and the next reasoning capabilities that comes with the next frontier of Gen AI capabilities, which you could almost summarize it up in a human-assisted agentic AI or agentic AI. I think that's the next leap of productivity in logistics, where we still use and leverage, the key capabilities, have a human-centric approach in terms of how you can automate your processes, but then you can delegate some tasks to a human-assisted AI agent to call up a vendor for a quote, chase down a delivery, try to find out more information and so forth. But also try to automate some elements of the customer interactions as well with automatic image processing. For example, if you upload a pallet, for example, then an AI agent could almost quote you on the spot in terms of how much that would cost you to move from Sao Paulo to New York, and I need it there by next Thursday, so to say, with some additional parameters. So I think there are different elements to that. That is the next level of frontier. I think also what is important for us is not only that we optimize our supply chain internally and drive our operational efficiency, it's also that the way we operate with our customers is also that we want to give them the benefit of better operational efficiency. So we also are in deep discussions with a lot of customers around how can we co-create solutions together? How can we drive this technology shift together and really be a bit bold and try to fail together, so to say, because I think everything is not going to work out perfectly, but then we also know where we see a use case where we can solve a customer problem where we possibly hadn't seen it internally. So a lot of co-creation with our customers is quite important as well, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And about the AI and the ESG,
Yep.
I think the AI is contributing a lot for the ESG. It means when you implement all this intelligence and you can optimize the processes, I think this supports a lot. And how the clients meets these ESG targets that you have.
Yeah. So I think there's two sides to AI and sustainability. 2 years ago, I wrote a book on the topic sustainable IT for sustainable IT playbook for technology leaders. This was a couple of months before Gen AI was released, and I think what we see now, a couple of years into this Gen AI journey, is that obviously there's a great promise that AI can deliver a lot of sustainability solutions, no doubt about it, in terms of predictions, in terms of shortening lead times, demand forecasting, and so forth. But then on the back end of that, I think it's also very, very important to call out that we need to build AI on sustainable digital infrastructure, because AI requires a lot of energy, it requires a lot of water, and it also burns through a lot of computer equipment like servers, network equipment, much, much faster than what you saw in the previous, for example. So I think it's also important to call out that some of the technology vendors like Google and Microsoft in a couple of years ago, they made very bold promises that by end of this decade, by 2030, they would be net neutral. But unfortunately, on the contrary, they're increasing their emissions. So I believe Google has increased by 48% in the last 3 years, and Microsoft have similar numbers, around 40%. And then on the water consumption, Microsoft has increased the water consumption by roughly 14 million cubic meters in the last 2 years. And just to put that in perspective, that is the same amount of water that Reykjavik uses, the capital of Iceland, uses in 1 year. So I think also it's important to be mindful in terms of how do we build out AI in a sustainable way, and not only focusing on the promise that AI can build, but also how do we do it in a more long-term, with a long-term lens, so to say. Because even in the US, by end of this decade, by 2030, 25% of energy will be consumed by data centers, and we see similar numbers across the world. So this is very important that the AI doesn't just take over the energy grid, because I think we also need it for other important.
That's important topic that you brought, because today I don't think that worthwhile the companies will reduce the consumption of water and everything, because the AI is the topic that all the companies see that you can reduce processes, reduce costs. So, but how do you see the balance between this consumption of water and all the resources that you need, and the reduction of the with the intelligence will bring to the processes, and the reduction carbon? And how do you see this balance?
Yeah, and I think it's a very good question, and what I really believe in is that we need to like adopt more of a wider system thinking, because if you only look at a specific data center, for example, and the water that you draw locally to power that data center or the energy that you need, but if you think a bit wider and say, well, if I use renewable energy sources to power the data center, and with the excess energy that you get out of the data center, then you pass that on to another industry that could use it for food tech, for example, to leverage it for greenhouses or for industrial facilities, so to say. On the water, I think if you build the data center in the way that you can recirculate the water, or even build it closer to, you don't need fresh water, you can use salt water, so to say. So I think it's important to think about the whole the ecosystem around that and have a more of a system thinking. So it's not only the data center, it's all of the building blocks around it. And I think this is really around having more governance around this, having more regulations around it in terms of how we can build it out more sustainably. Because otherwise, I think this will just take a negative turn, and then we will have a very, very big shortage of resources, water, energy, and so forth.
And how far we are to land in this situation that you brought? It means to use renewable energy to support the data center or reuse the water. How far we are? Because I know that all the companies worldwide is running to implement AI
Yeah.
to reduce costs and improve the processes and all the products.
Yep.
But I don't feel that we are close to finding alternatives
Yeah.
to these resources. How far we are?
Yeah, no, but I think that there are some definitely some good initiatives already. I think Scandinavia, where I come from, we almost have 98% renewable energy, so to say. So that is a good
Very good,
alternative
very
to
good.
build out data center infrastructure. It's also a fairly cool environment to build out. In Quebec, in Montreal, they have a lot of water utility. So they all almost have 100% utility from renewable energy from water, and similarly, I know that um, nuclear power can be a bit of a sensitive topic, so to say. But if you look at the state of Ontario in Canada, they also have low carbon energy coming out of nuclear powers, so to say. And just call out a couple of numbers around this, because I think it's important that if you use renewable energy, then per kilowatt hour, that's roughly 20 grams of CO2 emission per kilowatt hour if you use renewable energy sources like solar, like wind power, and hydro. If you use oil and gas for the same, then that could differ somewhere between 650 and 800 grams per kilowatt hour. So you're talking about a difference between 30 and 40x in terms of the difference. So I think it's really about educating people to also demand where they can, because I think also one of the great promises with cloud is that you can also choose where you put your workload.
Yeah.
So if you can put demand on your provider, it doesn't have to be the big three, so to say, of the technology providers, but the local providers that then also can provide you with low carbon energy. I think that's a very, very good start. So I think it's really more of an educational topic, and to bring that word out. But I still think we have some ways to go to
Yeah.
educate everyone.
Yeah, for sure. It's a matter of education. Important question here. You are passionate of the topic AI.
Yep.
AI fix everything. Does AI fix everything?
No, I don't think so. I think there are some, if you take the avenue of there's a lot of positive things that AI can do for us, but then also there's a negative avenue. There's a lot of complications as well that AI cannot fix for us, and even make things worse. For example, the the professor at MIT, Max Tegmark, he talked about this already 2015, that if we don't put regulations on AI, then we will start to see autonomous weapons in that. And he was talking in the UN about this 2015. Fast forward 8-9 years, and we see, unfortunately, there's a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, where they're using a lot of autonomous weapons now with drones and so forth that can very pinpoint targets, powered by AI and sophisticated technology, so to say. I think also the other element around AI is obviously when the AI starts taking decisions that are in contrast to your own goals. If the AI determines that the goals are different from the goals that you set out as human, then I think also we're coming down a very, very dangerous path, because then we have sort of left the avenue of human-assisted AI, but then more of autonomous AI, but we're not control over the machine, so to say. So I think the development is very, very fast. I'm not so concerned that we can do whatever we can do with AI. I think also it's really about building out AI in a responsible way. How do we make sure that we have enough trust in the technology? The technology sector is one of the few sectors that is not regulated at all, essentially. They can release any type of technology out in the marketplace. You could not do that in the healthcare industry. You cannot open up a restaurant here in Sao Paulo without having a certificate for health inspection and so on. So I think the technology sector needs to come under a little bit of scrutiny as well, because I think also it's a little bit worrisome where they cannot explain how those large language models work themselves. And large language models, it's a little bit like putting your teenager behind the wheel of a Ferrari at the moment, so to say. I'm not so sure you want to do that in real life. And I think a little bit about it, about same way about Gen AI capabilities. I think it's important to address more of the low risk use cases. But in transportation, obviously, if you use it for controlling the railway system, controlling traffic lights and so forth, then obviously this can have disastrous consequences, so to say. So I think the word trust is extremely important to be able to move at a pace that we as humans can keep up instead of control the machine, so to say. Because if we let loose all the control, I think we're coming down a very, very dangerous path.
That's amazing. I agree with your view. I read the book for Yuval Harari. That's not the book called Nexus, the book. And I think we need to control the AI and regulate the AI. But I think that the companies is going through a fast way to implement, but we are not discussing how to regulate the AI
Yeah.
worldwide. I think we need to balance that, because I agree with you. It's dangerous because you are giving autonomy to the machine to do something that sometimes we don't have the control in the future.
Yeah.
And what's the big challenge that you see in the technology for logistics specifically?
Well, I think the big $1 million question when we talk to every customer is the quality of data. So say the ecosystem of data that we get from our suppliers and in the end pass on to our customers, and then also to be able to take action on something when it happens, so to say. So I think the big challenge is really about 20% is the data, getting the right data in the AI systems. 10% is roughly building out the AI systems, but then 70% is really the change management. How do we bring our people onto this journey? How do we make them trust the technology? Because I think also AI can essentially be a bit controversial as well in terms of, will this take away our jobs in the future? So the element of change management is extremely important when it comes to the adoption and scaling of these use cases, because I think this is where we've been quite successful internally. We've put a lot of use cases in production, but what I hear in the marketplace and so forth is that there's a lot of companies that they didn't do their homework when it comes to responsible AI, or they didn't think about how we would implement this long term, and now they are sort of stuck in this POC phase and they're not able to scale and adopt it quicker enough. So I think it's important to also do the groundwork and bring the right people on the journey and try to focus on what is the problem that we're trying to solve, rather than just bring in the technology and see what problem we can solve, essentially. So really turn around and say, to be quite problem centric in terms of what we're trying to solve for our customers.
Oh, that's great. And
Yep.
let's talk about the cases that you are working with AI in Kuehne+Nagel. Which initiatives you are implementing worldwide and getting results, and which results that you are facing today with AI?
Yeah. No, I think we've been working with AI for quite some time. So uh, we have roughly a team of 30 data scientists that have been working on machine learning and neural networks for quite some time. We've also seen along the way that there were some limitations in terms of what we can do with machine learning, but then also the possibility that what we can do with just regular machine learning with internal data that we can train on demand forecasting, how we can leverage. We have a product called Sea Explorer that we make available for all of our customers. And we use machine learning to predict when those vessels will arrive into port. We predict if there's going to be a disruption at port. What is that average disruption? Is it 7 days, 2 days? So we use that and we service that up already to our customers. Some other use case that we use is for in road logistics. We use this for estimate the time of arrival, where essentially, even though we might have an SLA where we have to deliver to the warehouse in 10 days, and then if we deliver on day 8 rather than day 10, our customer haven't sort of planned for that, and they don't have the proper staff in the warehouse to be able to receive the goods and so forth. And this leads to a bit of fluctuation in the workforce planning for our customers. It leads to a lot of overtime, unhappy workers and so forth. So what we did in this particular use case was that we started sharing data between ourselves and then to predict a more reliable ETA. And this leads to better workforce planning for our customers. It leads to less overtime and essentially a higher customer satisfaction, so to say. We have deployed a number of chatbots internally for to be able to service that up with Gen AI. I think if we just look back 3 years ago, it was quite hard to make a chatbot that was quite autonomous. But then if you fast forward a few years, Gen AI capabilities can take care of that. But that is become a bit of table stakes, so to say. But I think another interesting fact is that roughly people search for information roughly 20 minutes per day. So one thing that we have done is to create a knowledge search, one that's quite specific for an area within finance or within operations or HR. And then we make some more, general use cases for a BU, for example. So one case that we had was that roughly we had 25,000 tickets in one BU, and we get requests. The North Star that we set was that we should be able to respond to those requests, not solve, so to say, because then we're coming into more of the agentic part. But like, how do I create a customer in this system? Where do I find the right information about this customer? How do I do a mass update or update this order or so forth? And here we set the North Star around 75% to be able to respond to these questions. And roughly 25,000 tickets per month is quite significant. And here we're starting to roll that out to roughly 10,000 people within one BU. And if you can have a little bit of an imagination about this can obviously be scaled out to different functions and different BUs and so forth. So this was sort of one of the initial marquee topics that we wanted to address. The next sort of wave of productivity is to look at, okay, now that we know how to solve the problem, rather than maybe servicing back the answer to the customer and say, this is how you update a customer, maybe we should deploy human-assisted agentic AI into this and then go and update the customer directly, rather than just giving an answer in terms of how we should do. So more sense, interpret, and act, so to say. But we're not there yet. And I think this comes back a little bit to trust as well. The human-assisted agentic AI is quite new. OpenAI released their reasoning model in November of last year. So I would say probably realistically would probably be 18, 24 months away before we see enough trust in this and we see that this can work at scale. So at the moment, it's more about, the response, the knowledge search and the co-pilots. But then the next wave of productivities, say, will be the human assisted agentic AI.
That's amazing. Now I would like to talk about the automation. I saw when I'm preparing for this chat that in the 2023 annual report mentions highly automated through e-touch leveraging AI.
Yeah.
Which processes gain more efficiency and how many hours you saved in this process?
Yeah, I think they're definitely in the thousands of hours in terms of what we save. But I think this comes back to the touch points that I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, with sea freight having 21, 22 touch points to have a container from A to B, so to say. And where we see sort of the key elements is obviously within the operations. It's within the sales, it's within the quoting, the booking, and the operational part to be able to move the container from A to B. And then obviously being in logistics, document processing is an area where you have a lot of different languages, you have a lot of different regulations, customs topics, and so forth. Here, I think we've just sort of just started scratching the surface. I think 10 years ago, we were happy if we could get 50, 60% accuracy on OCR scanning. If we took a document, a customs document, or a bill of lading, whatever that might be, and we got 60% correction. But we still need a lot of workforce to be able to interpret, was this correctly interpreted or was it not? What we actually see now with some models, we've just tried out Gemini 2 from Google. And we tried this on a very specific use case for travel and expense management for receipts. So we have hundreds of thousands of receipts on a monthly basis that we manage. And the accuracy that we've seen so far with OCR scanning is roughly between 50, 60%, some 70% in some instances. But now, even handwritten notes where you write out the tip and the full amount in Korean, Arabic, Cyrillic, Chinese, South Korean, it's able to interpret this almost flawlessly. And I think if we can apply this on a very sort of rudimentary use case for expense management or receipts, then I think this is a game changer in our industry in terms of how document processing will be done in the future. So those are probably the two biggest areas: the document processing and how it can improve operations, where we look to deploy the next frontier of productivity, I would say.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And talking about AI, that you are very, you are implementing a lot initiatives, right? So, and the IoT.
Yep.
How do you working with IoT implementing in your operations? How it works in Kuehne+Nagel?
Yeah. And I think this is a very interesting question, because I think, we have an IoT platform. We roughly have 10 million events per day. We can obviously do a lot of disruption management with that. We can see if the cargo is not moving according to the schedule and so forth. But here, I think it's important to call out that we are in very, very nascent development of this, because in some certain industries like healthcare, they want to have, to be able to show the chain of custody from A to B. They want to show who has been in control of the cargo, what has been the temperature, because if you are moving vaccines, they can only go within a temperature range. We need to make sure that they have not been susceptible to shock, so to say. So healthcare is one of the front runners when it comes to these sensors that you put on the specific cargo. But I think, to be honest, when the price performance, when the cost on the labels, that we can now start printing a chip back on the label. We're rolling this out within our air freight business at the moment. where we're using a simple label printer and putting a chip on the back of that, and we stick it on the pallet or on the unit level. We can track it seamlessly across the world, so to say. And this doesn't have that much AI into it, but it comes back to the element of the trust. Because if our customers start trusting the data, the data quality goes up, because now they are getting direct information from the sensors, and they can see in real time if this cargo has landed in Sao Paulo. Where is it? Because we can geofence also the airport and say, well, this is still in customs. This is past customs. And then the next step to that would be, when our customers start trusting that data, they will also start hyper automate on their side, because they will not only take the signal and say, well, now this has arrived here, then they will also start updating their milestones in their TMS systems rather than having it operate. So I think this is not an AI specific use case, but I think it's really hyper automation, because now we can work seamlessly together with our customers to really hyper automate the whole value chain, and not only on our side, but also on our customer side. And then I think we really, really bring out value on both sides.
Oh, for sure. And we're going to the end of our chat, but I would like to explore about the vision of 2030.
Yep.
5 years ahead. Agentic AI, digital twins, quantum optimization. Which technology you think that will be the most impact in the operations, and how does Kuehne+Nagel plan the position in this scenario?
Yep. So I think in 5 years, I think we were well on the way of having human-assisted agentic AI deployed into a lot of our core processes, both our operational process, but also a lot in finance processes for cash allocations, invoicing, taxes, and so forth. So I think we will be well on our way. Will we have deployed autonomous agentic AI? Doubtful. I think we still, 5 years away, don't have enough trust in the machine, so to say, to let it loose completely. So I think I stop at sort of human-assisted agentic AI at 2030. What we just talked about is obviously the smart labels and the IoT devices. I think as soon as we reach that point where the cost per label comes down significantly, then I think you will see a massive disruption in the whole industry, because then everybody will start putting these labels on this. And then you will see a massive productivity leap in terms of data quality, reliability in data, and so forth. So those would probably be the two big ones that I would see going forward. And then I'm sure there are a number of use cases that we haven't thought about, but we are exploring with our customers together in terms of what we can drive together.
That's amazing. And I would like to see all this in the future Intermodal. I would like you to come back,
Yeah.
be with us, and talk more about what you are doing, and if your vision you implemented, and all the cases that you have. Niklas, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you here in the Intermodal. And Kuehne+Nagel, congratulations for all the things that you are doing, talking about AI and all the processes and what you're improving.
Yep. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
I talked with Niklas Sundberg, Chief Digital Officer. I would like to remind you that Intermodal has end-to-end logistics solutions. I see you in the next episode.